Hey guys, tonight's story starts with a strange itch, a colder than usual floor, and a rooster that clearly has a personal vendetta. You've just woken up somewhere unfamiliar. A wooden cottage, no electricity, and the smell of cabbage hanging in the air like it pays rent. There's no phone, no coffee, no explanation. Just a grunt from a man who hands you a piece of bread and walks away like you're the weird one. And somehow, this is your life now. So, before you get too cozy, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this strange little corner of quiet storytelling. And drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's strangely comforting to know who else is drifting off with us around the world. Now get comfortable, let the day melt away, and we'll drift back together into the quiet corners of the past. You wake up with your face in straw. Not a soft golden storybook kind of straw. Real straw. Sharp, itchy, poking you in the eye kind of straw. It smells like old hay, sweat, and possibly goat. The light slanting through the cracks in the wall is soft and gray like early morning fog. There's a low rumble near your head. It's rhythmic, wet, a snore. You turn your head and come eye to eye with a dog. Or maybe a wolf. No, just a very hairy dog. He stares at you for a moment, unimpressed, then goes back to sleeping like it's none of his business that a stranger is face down in his bed. You sit up and immediately regret it. Your back feels like it's been twisted into a question mark. The mattress, if you can call it that, is just a loosely woven sack of straw on a board of splintery wood. No pillows, no blankets. Just you and the distant smell of smoke, like someone's burning toast 4 centuries too early. You blink. Once. Twice. This isn't your room. This isn't even your time zone. The walls are wooden planks, uneven and knotted, with no paint, no photos, no insulation. There's a window the size of a cereal box, covered in something that might be pig intestine stretched tight. Light leaks through, but barely. You reach for your phone out of habit. Your fingers find nothing but rough wool. You're wearing a tunic, a real one, scratchy, oversized, and definitely not from your closet. There's no hum, no buzz, no distant traffic or refrigerator drone. Just chickens outside, flapping and squawking like they're having a heated argument. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rings once. Then silence. You swing your legs off the bed and your feet touch stone, cold, uneven stone. There's a draft, a real one. It whistles through the walls like the house is sighing. You stand. The room spins. There's a table, more of a stump with legs, and a single wooden bowl. Inside is something thick and gray. Porridge, maybe wallpaper paste. You look around. One door, no lock, no light switch, no plumbing. You shuffle to the door and open it slowly. The hinges groan like they haven't moved since the plague. Outside, you're not sure what to expect. A parking lot? A hidden camera crew? Instead, you're hit with a gust of damp air and the sharp smell of animals and people. Lots of people. You're in a village. Not a quaint one with souvenir shops and guided tours. A real one. Mud paths, thatched roofs, and a group of people all staring at you like you just landed from the moon. Which, in a way, you did. Someone shouts something in English, but it's old, twisted. Get on with you, new boy. You blink again. Who are they talking to? You? A woman with a basket walks past, gives you a look, and mutters something about sleeping through cockcrow. A child throws a turnip at a pig. The pig doesn't flinch. It's seen worse. You close the door slowly. Turn around. The dog is still asleep. You sit back down on the straw, scratch your ankle, and a small puff of dust rises. You look at your hands. They're already dirty. You haven't done anything, but the dirt has found you anyway. A scratching at the door. Then it opens. A man enters. Grizzled. Worn leather tunic. Hands like tree bark. He glances at you and grunts. Throws a wool sack at your chest. Boots. That's all he says. Then he leaves. The boots smell like damp socks and despair. But you put them on anyway. They don't fit. Of course they don't. You hear a clang. Something metal. Something being beaten. You step outside again, and this time no one looks. You've already been cataloged. You're the new one. The strange one. The one who asked if there was Wi-Fi. A boy walks by carrying a goose under one arm like a briefcase. A man pees against a wall like it's just part of the morning routine. You notice a well. A real rope and bucket well. A woman hauls water from it with biceps that could split logs. She nods at you. It's the friendliest thing you've seen all morning. You nod back. Because what else is there to do? You're not dreaming. You're not dead. You're just here. In this place where floors are stone, beds are straw, and your spine may never forgive you, and for some reason, you're not panicking. Not yet. Just watching, breathing, wondering what comes next. You wake up again to the dog sneezing directly into your face. There's no alarm clock, just phlegm and fur. Outside, the sky is the same dull pewter shade it was when you fell asleep. Time seems to smear here. You're not sure if it's 6 in the morning or 6 in the never. The air bites a little sharper today. Your spine still resents you. And your feet now blistered from yesterday's battle with the oversized leather boots feel like they've aged 20 years overnight. The door creaks open. No knock. No good morning. Just a presence. A shadow in the shape of a man. He walks in like he owns the play switch. You assume he does. Your host, if that word even applies, looks at you the way one looks at a wheelbarrow that somehow learned to speak. Not curious. Not friendly. Just vaguely annoyed that you exist. He drops something on the stump table with a thud. Bread. A chunk of it. Not sliced. Not buttered. Just torn from a larger, meaner loaf. It's heavy, misshapen, and looks like it lost a fight with a rock. He doesn't say a word. Just grunts and turns to stoke the fire in the corner hearth, muttering something under his breath that may or may not be directed at you. You nod. A diplomatic, neutral kind of nod. He doesn't look back. You pick up the bread. It's cold, dense, possibly older than your current predicament. You bite it anyway. Your jaw protests. This is bread that doesn't want to be eaten. This is bread that survived battles. Your teeth manage to chip off a chunk. It tastes like survival. Not good, not bad, just edible. Barely. There's no coffee. That realization hits slow and cruel. No smell of it, no mug, no ritual of pouring. You scan the room again like maybe, just maybe, there's a French press hiding under the bed. Nothing. Just ash, dust, and a pile of sticks that might be dinner or furniture. Your mouth is dry. You chew slower, not because it helps, but because there's nothing else to do. Your host finishes with the fire and sits down across from you. Not at the table, on a stool that wobbles, like it's had a rough life. He pulls out a knife the length of your forearm and begins scraping something off his boot. Mud? Manure? Both? You decide not to ask. He doesn't seem like the small talk type. The silence isn't awkward. It's dense. Like fog. Like it belongs here. You chew. He scrapes. The dog farts softly. Eventually, he looks up. Not at you, through you. As if trying to decide what sort of creature you are. His eyes are like burnt coal. Not cruel. Not kind. Just tired. He scratches his beard, then says the first word you've heard from him that's longer than a grunt. Work. You blink. He points toward the door. After. Then gestures at the bread. You nod again, unsure what work means. Yesterday, it meant hauling buckets and nearly getting pecked to death by a chicken. Today, who knows? You imagine they might hand you a shovel and tell you to move a hill, or a goat. You finish the bread. It doesn't finish you. That's a win. You stand. He stands. The dog stays. Outside, the village is already busy. Smoke from 10 different hearths curls into the sky. Women with baskets stride past like they've got a schedule, only they understand. Children run barefoot through the mud, laughing and yelling at pigs like it's perfectly normal behavior. Your host walks ahead, not checking if you follow. You do, because there's nowhere else to go. Your boots squelch in the muck. A chicken eyes you with deep suspicion. Somewhere, a bell tolls again. A different one this time. Lower, slower. Everything here has its own rhythm, its own soundscape of clatter, cough, grunt, and cluck. You pass a man urinating into a bucket like it's just part of breakfast. He nods at your host, says something in that thick, muddy English that barely feels like English. Your host nods back. You're invisible again. That's starting to feel comforting. At the edge of the village, there's a shed. More like a shack that gave up halfway through becoming a building. Inside, tools. Rakes, shovels, a two-handed saw that looks like it could sever a tree and maybe did. Your host picks up a scythe, hands you something smaller. A hoe, or a trowel, or a weapon. Hard to tell. You get the sense that today will involve dirt. Lots of it. Maybe potatoes. Maybe something worse. You sigh. Not a modern scythe dramatic kind with AirPods and emails. A real one. Tired. Resigned. Almost sacred. He looks at you one more time. This time there's almost a smirk. Not quite a smile, but close. Like he's seen something he understands. A crack in your face that says, you're beginning to accept it. The lack of noise. The lack of comfort. The way mornings here begin, with dry bread and silence. And maybe, just maybe, that silence is teaching you something. Something you didn't know you needed to hear. The bucket lands in your hands without ceremony. No instructions. No smile. Just a dented tin pail, damp on the inside, heavy with implication. Your host doesn't explain, he doesn't need to. He just nods toward the door, mutters something that might be well, or work, or worse, then turns his back and resumes the important business of ignoring your existence. You stare at the bucket like it might come with a manual. It doesn't. Just a faint rust ring on the bottom, and a handle that pinches your fingers when you grip it too tightly. You step outside, hoping for a sign. Any sign. Instead, you get a whiff of pig, then chicken, then something sour and wet that you decide not to investigate further. It's early still. The village is just waking. Thatched roofs stretch beneath the yawning sky. Smoke curls upward like sleepy thoughts. People move like they've already been moving for hours. A woman walks past with a basket on her head and a baby strapped to her chest. She glances at you, then your bucket, then back at you. No words, just a short, exhausted laugh. You follow the flow of bodies toward the sound of splashing and wooden creaks, and then you see it. The well. It's taller than you expected, thicker. A stone cylinder with a wooden frame above it and a crank that looks like it was built to outlast empires. A line's already formed, mostly women. One boy, all with buckets like yours, though theirs don't look borrowed. A few glance at you. A couple whisper. You pretend not to notice, or understand. When it's your turn, the old woman ahead of you doesn't move. She just jerks her chin at the crank like she's daring you. You step up, take the handle, and begin turning. It groans, loudly. Your arms burn almost immediately. The rope fights back. Water doesn't want to be lifted. It wants to stay deep, secret, untouched. But after several rotations, the bucket rises, sloshing and swaying like it's drunk. You lift it, spill a bit, pretend you didn't, pour it into your pail. The old woman grunts, approving or disgusted you can't tell. Then she turns and walks away. Your pail is half full. You debate doing it again, but your arms have filed a complaint, so you stop. You carry the water back through the village, slowly, carefully. Every step becomes a negotiation. The handle bites your palm. The water sloshes over your boots. It's heavier than it looks. Cold, too. Like it knows it's better than you. People don't get out of your way. They don't have to. You're the new one. You're the one who doesn't walk like they're used to, hauling things that matter. You return to the cottage. Your host isn't there. The door creaks. The dog lifts his head just enough to confirm you still exist, then returns to the art of sleeping. You place the pail beside the hearth like it's sacred. It's not. Within seconds, it's being used. For what? You're not entirely sure. Washing, drinking, cooking, possibly all three. You sit, hoping that's enough. It's not. A second bucket is pushed into your chest. Smaller, wooden, damp in a suspicious way. This time the nod is downward, toward the back corner. There's a second door you hadn't noticed. Behind it, a tiny room, dirt floor, a stool with a hole in the center, a smell that slaps you across the face with the force of history. And now, you understand. This is not a water bucket. It's a waste bucket. The chamber pot. The medieval answer to indoor plumbing. And it's full. Not overflowing, but substantial. You pick it up, trying not to breathe through your nose. It sloshes in a way water doesn't. Thick, malevolent. You hold it as far from your body as your arms allow. Your host doesn't follow. This mission is yours alone. You walk again. This time not to the well. This time beyond the last cottage, toward the trees. You follow the scent of ammonia and despair, until you find what must be the dumping site. A pit, covered in flies. A silent testament to the human condition. You pour, carefully, slowly, trying not to imagine the splash pattern. When you return, no one congratulates you. No one claps. You place the bucket near the side of the cottage. A woman walks by and nods. That's all. But it feels earned, like your first unspoken promotion. Later, when you sit by the fire, chewing another hunk of bread and pretending it has flavor, you realize something. The bucket was never just about the bucket. It was initiation, trial by pail. A medieval rite of passage that separates the tourist from the tenant. You're not one of them. Not yet. But today, you hauled their water. You emptied their waste. And somehow, you survived both. The door sticks again. It always sticks. You have to lean into it with your shoulder just to open it. Like the house itself is trying to keep you in. But you push through. And outside, the village greets you the same way it always does, with chickens. They're everywhere. Like they've staged a takeover in the night. Pecking, flapping, strutting like tiny feathered judges. One hops onto a barrel and stares you down like it knows what you did. You don't make eye contact. The last time you did that, it chased you for half a street. The air is wet with fog, thick enough to muffle footsteps, but not enough to hide the looks. They glance at you from windows, from doorways, from the corners of their eye as they go about their routines. They don't stop what they're doing. They just take you in. Again. Like they're trying to decide if you're getting better or just stranger. A man walks past you, pushing a wheelbarrow full of turnips. You nod. He nods back, eventually. Not a greeting. More like a confirmation. You're still here. Still the stranger. Still the one who showed up asking questions about apps and electricity and whether or not the bread had gluten. A child calls out behind you. Stranger! And throws a clump of moss. It hits your boot and flops to the ground. She giggles and runs away before you can even turn. It's not mean. Not quite. It's more like a game. You're the village novelty. The accidental mascot of confusion. Down the path, the blacksmith hammers away like he's mad at the metal. Sparks leap with every strike, lighting up his sweaty face like he's forging weapons for the end of the world. He doesn't look up. You've passed by him enough times to know he has two moods. Working and sleeping. Neither includes talking. You step around a puddle that looks deep enough to have its own ecosystem and head toward the market square. It's not a square, really. More of a muddy circle, surrounded by carts and crates and people trying to look busier than they actually are. A woman arranges leeks in a row, so straight it could be military formation. A man shouts something about eels. Another plays a lute missing 2 strings and 1 sense of rhythm. You linger near a cart stacked with apples. The vendor eyes you, then casually slides his arm between you and the produce. Not today, stranger. You move on. Someone calls out again. Oi, stranger. You still sleeping in Osric's barn? You don't know who Osric is, or if it's even a question. You just nod once and keep walking. Better to agree than explain. Explanations here don't go over well. You've tried. Once, you said you were from the future as a joke. They made the sign of the cross and didn't speak to you for 2 days. At the well, you watch as 2 women fill buckets and talk in fast, clumsy English that still sounds more like poetry than conversation. One glances at you, then whispers, then laughs. You pretend you didn't hear. You always pretend you didn't hear. There's a rhythm to the village now. You can feel it. Even if you're not part of it, you know its beat. Morning water, midday meals, afternoon repairs, sunset silence. And you, moving just behind the tempo, always half a step late, always watched. A boy walks by, leading a pig on a rope. The pig snorts at you like it remembers something personal. You try to smile. The boy doesn't return it. He just says, "Mind you don't curse the beast," then keeps walking like that was a completely normal sentence. You pass the chapel. The priest is sweeping the steps. He pauses, watches you, then says, "Stranger, not unfriendly, not welcoming, just a label. You wonder if he even knows your name, if anyone does, if it matters." Someone hands you a small loaf of bread. No explanation, no eye contact. Just passes it into your hands and moves on. You stare at it. It's still warm. You take a bite, then another. It's better than yesterday's. Less rock, more dough, a quiet offering, or maybe just a leftover. You sit on a stump near the edge of the square. Watch as the village breathes around you. Dogs bark. Children shout. Someone drops a crate and curses, in a language you almost understand. The sky starts to shift from pale to gold. Another day passing. They still call you stranger. Still glance at you like you might sprout feathers or breathe fire. But no one's run you out. No one's tried to burn you. That feels like progress. And for a second, just a small one, you realize something. They forgot you don't belong. And part of you has started to forget too. It happened before breakfast. Before you learned what the word porridge really meant. Before you understood that people here don't sip. They slurp. You were tired. Still half asleep, mouth dry, brain not quite accepting that your bed is now a pile of straw, and your alarm clock is a dog with a sinus issue. You had followed your host Osric. As you finally learned his name to the village square, he grunted. You followed. That's the arrangement. He walks. You try not to get lost or accidentally offend someone by existing too loudly. The market was buzzing, not loud, just alive. Wooden carts rolling across mud, people shouting about onions, a man selling eels out of a barrel that may or may not also be his bathtub. The air smelled like smoke and cabbage and wet wood. You saw a baker. You didn't plan to say anything, but your mouth moved before your survival instinct caught up. Do you guys have Wi-Fi? You said it under your breath, not even as a question. More like a sad joke you whispered into the world. A string of words your mouth released out of habit. But someone heard. They always do. The baker froze, mid-loaf. His eyes narrowed like you just asked if bread was a government conspiracy. He made the sign of the cross. Not quickly, slowly, purposefully. His eyes locked on yours the whole time. Like he wasn't sure if the devil was inside you or standing directly behind you. You opened your mouth to explain, but it was too late. A boy across the lane pointed. He said Wi-Fi. Another voice piped up from somewhere behind a sack of turnips. Is that a spell? A woman clutched her apron and turned away like you were leaking disease. Osric didn't speak. He didn't need to. The look he gave you could have shattered glass. It said one thing very clearly. Don't. You laughed it off. Tried to. A weak, cracked sort of laugh that died in the mud. Never mind, you said. It's nothing. Just something dumb. But the damage was done. The crowd had already decided. By midday, someone had whispered that you spoke in tongues, that you might be part fae, that you came from the forest, or across the sea, or from the stars. The stories changed by the hour, but the words stuck. Possessed. You'd earned a new title. Not just stranger, not just new boy. Now you were the one who speaks of the sky web. It didn't help when you tried to ask if anyone had seen a charger. You didn't even mean it seriously. You were trying to be funny, lighten the mood. But they don't have the mood here. They have chores. They have blisters. They have frostbite in May and childbirth in fields and men who leave for war and never come back. Your joke was just noise. From then on, things shifted. Subtly. You'd walk past the baker and he'd mutter something under his breath. You'd step into the market and a child would pretend to cast a spell on you, laughing until their mother pulled them back. One night, someone left a sprig of garlic by your door. You started speaking less, listening more. You learned how to nod without inviting follow-up, how to look busy, even when you weren't sure what your hands were supposed to be doing. You stopped asking questions, especially the wrong ones. The village doesn't hate you. Not exactly. You're still fed, still handed tools, still allowed to exist within the blurry borders of their day. But there's a perimeter around your presence now. A half step of space people leave between you and them. You're not dangerous, but you're not right, either. You said something that wasn't supposed to be said. You reminded them that you think in a language they don't understand. So you swallow your words, let them sink. You learn how to make eye contact that doesn't linger, how to carry a bucket without spilling, how to eat in silence, how to take up less space, breathe quieter, disappear just enough to avoid being remembered too clearly. But you never forget the moment, the way the market slowed, the way the baker's face changed, the way that single word Wi-Fi felt like a betrayal of something sacred, like you'd spit on their god, their bread, their weather-worn rhythm. You learn, quickly and completely, that the past has no patience for your present. You're here now, In this place, this time, where the only web is made by spiders and no one laughs when you say something they don't understand. You don't ask again. You don't explain. You just shut up fast. They're waiting for you, on the floor, right by the door, like someone placed them there on purpose. Two wooden shapes, awkward, clunky, carved, like someone gave up halfway through making a chair and decided it would be easier to just strap the failed pieces to someone's feet. Your name, well, your nickname, scratched into the side in childlike letters. New boy. No one says who left them. No one needs to. You stare at them for a long time. Before touching them, they don't look dangerous, but they don't look comfortable either. You reach out, tap one. It makes a hollow thump against the stone floor. It feels wrong to call them shoes. They're more like wearable planks. But your host nods toward them that morning, so you try. The first thing you learn is that your foot doesn't go in easily. These weren't made for feet, not real ones. They were made for a vague idea of a foot, a medieval sketch of what toes probably looked like. You shove, twist, curse under your breath. Finally, with enough force to sprain logic, you get both feet in. There's no left or right, just pain. You take a step. The noise is immediate. A clomp, then another. You sound like a haunted wardrobe dragging itself through a hallway. The dog opens one eye. You take another step. Your ankle rolls. Your knee screams. You make it 3 paces before you stub your toe on the door frame, which is impressive, since your toe is now protected by what might as well be a wooden brick. You walk outside, one slow step at a time. The chickens scatter. You feel taller. Not in a good way. More like you're balancing on a pile of regrets. Children point. One claps. Another mimics your gait, exaggerated and loud. You want to laugh. You almost do. But the blister forming on your heel starts whispering threats, and you go quiet again. You miss sneakers. You miss arch support. You miss the quiet glide of rubber soles and the soft give of fabric. But most of all, you miss socks. The way they used to cradle your feet, like tiny woolen apologies. Now your toes rub against the wood, like 2 enemies stuck in the same prison cell. By mid-morning, you've developed a limp. Not dramatic. Just enough that every 3rd step looks like you're reconsidering all your life choices. You try walking on the balls of your feet, then the sides. Then you just surrender and start dragging your legs like you're being punished for something. The blacksmith sees you hobbling by, doesn't say a word, just shakes his head once, deeply disappointed in your existence. A woman selling leeks clicks her tongue. You walk like a man who owes the road money. You don't respond. You just try not to fall into another puddle. Work today involves carrying logs. You're not told where to carry them to. Just handed one and pointed vaguely toward the west. The log is heavier than your pride and shaped like regret. Your wooden shoes catch on every root, every stone, every slight change in elevation. You trip twice. On the 3rd stumble, you fall forward. Not far. Just enough to get a mouthful of moss and the sudden awareness that yes, you can sprain your dignity. You look up from the ground. No one offers a hand. A boy laughs and walks past, balancing his own log on one shoulder like it's nothing more than a feather with ambition. You push yourself up, adjust your shoes. One is already starting to crack on the side. You wonder if it's symbolic. You wonder if everything here is. Later, at the stream, you try to wash your feet. Getting the shoes off is harder than getting them on. You pry, yank. Eventually remove them with a noise that sounds like betrayal. Your heels are red, your toes bruised. You consider just walking into the water and floating away, becoming a myth, a warning tale the villagers tell their children. Don't ask about Wi-Fi, or you'll become the river ghost. But you don't. You dry your feet on a patch of grass, slide the shoes back on, and walk slowly back toward the village. You sit outside the cottage that evening, legs stretched out, shoes in front of you like conquered beasts. The sunset is kind, gold spilling across the sky, softening the edges of the world. Someone walks past and nods at you. Not a greeting, more like acknowledgement. Like they've seen the limp, the effort, the endurance. You don't belong yet, but you wore the shoes. You survived the walk. You didn't quit. And maybe, just maybe, that counts for something here. It hits you in waves. Not suddenly, Not like stepping into a room where something's gone wrong. More like being slowly lowered into a bucket of smell. One day, it's a hint of damp wool. The next, wet hay. Then body odor, fermented by sun, and sealed in by layers of unwashed tunic. Eventually, it's everything, all at once. Earth, animal, smoke, salt, and something human that no modern word quite captures. You wake to it. You sleep in it. It crawls into your clothes, clings to your skin, lives in your hair. You've stopped noticing when you breathe through your mouth. It's just instinct now. A quiet surrender. No one else reacts. That's the strangest part. No one flinches when the butcher walks by smelling like spoiled soup and blood-soaked leather. No one comments when the old man on the bench smells like he's been pickled in sweat and onions. A woman lifts her arms to hang laundry and unleashes a storm front of armpit, and people just nod politely, like it's weather. Here, it is. Soap exists, but you don't see much of it. When you asked about it once, someone handed you a lump that looked like it had been chipped off a barn wall. You tried it. It smelled like ashes and fear. It disintegrated in the cold stream like it had unfinished business elsewhere. After that, you stopped asking. Bathing is more rumor than ritual. Someone mentioned a tub once, behind the tavern, but it costs money. And the water isn't warm, and there's only one. Which means it's not yours. Which means you're not sure who's been in it before you. You don't ask. You don't want to know. The stream is your best bet. You try to be discreet. Go early, go alone. Scrub with sand and prayer. The water's cold enough to make your spine remember childhood trauma. You rinse your arms, your face, your neck. Below that, you lose nerve or circulation. It's enough, you tell yourself. Good enough. Your hair is another story. It's gone from soft to straw, from straw to mat. You try to comb it with your fingers, but they catch on knots that weren't there yesterday. Once, you found a leaf. Another time, a small feather. You decide not to investigate further. The hair stays. Wild. Honest. Teeth are trickier. You miss the ritual. The mint. The foam. The 2-minute lie. You told yourself every morning and night. Here, people chew on sticks. Rub ashes on their gums. You try it once and gag so hard you scare the chickens. You settle for rinsing with stream water and hoping your teeth hold out until, well, you're not sure until when. You haven't smelled clean in days. Maybe longer. But something changes. Not in them. In you. Your nose starts to forget. Slowly, like a fog lifting backwards. You stop noticing the scent of damp boots. You stop recoiling at the pigsty. You walk past the fish stall without flinching. You stand beside Osric, your host, whose natural musk could be weaponized, and you don't even blink. You're adapting. Or breaking. Maybe both. One afternoon you catch your own scent. It's after a long morning hauling sacks of grain that leaked all over your shirt. You sit, stretch, and lift your arm. The smell hits you like an old memory. You lean back. Exhale. And for the first time, you don't hate it. It smells like effort. Like work. Like someone who belongs outside. There's freedom in it. Strange, unwashed freedom. No pressure to impress. No perfume. No deodorant battles. Just you, as you are. As the dirt sees you, as the wind accepts you. At night, lying on straw, you scratch your scalp and feel flakes. Dust. History. You no longer recoil. This is your new skin, your new shell. Not polished, not perfumed, but real. Honest in a way you hadn't expected to find comforting. The villagers never comment on your scent. That's how you know you've blended in. They gossip about everything, your limp, your mutterings, your inability to distinguish wheat from barley, but not your smell. That means it's no longer foreign. It's just yours. You stop apologizing for the dirt under your nails. Stop trying to smooth your hair. Stop pulling your shirt away from your chest when it clings. The old rules are gone. There are new ones now. And one of them is this. Clean is relative, but survival is permanent. So, you sleep with your boots by the door, your shirt damp from sweat and rain, your breath tasting of firewood and roasted turnip, and you don't flinch. You just breathe, through your nose. Because finally, your nose doesn't fight back. It started innocently enough. Osric handed you a basket trough, splintered, smelled like onions, and Regratand pointed toward the henhouse with a grunt that somehow meant eggs. You nodded, like this was something you could handle. Eggs. How hard could it be? You'd seen chickens before. In petting zoos, on TV, on sandwiches. None of them had ever looked like a threat. None of them had glared at you. But these chickens, these were a different breed. Medieval chickens. Wiser. Meaner. Built for war. You approached the henhouse like it was sacred ground. The air smelled like straw, feathers, and something vaguely aggressive. There were no instructions, no guide, just a basket in your hand and a vague memory of cartoons where farmers whistled and chickens just complied. You crouched, reached under the first hen, and she allowed it. Warm, feathery cooperation. You felt the egg with your fingers smooth, perfect, still warm from her body. You lifted it carefully. One down. Your confidence swelled. You could do this. You were doing this. The second hen flinched when you got close, but you gave her space. Whispered an apology. She blinked at you with mild suspicion, then shuffled aside just enough. Another egg. 2. Maybe you were made for this. Maybe you were finally getting the hang of... Then came her. You didn't see her at first. She was tucked into the darkest corner of the coop, half hidden behind a crooked plank and a pile of old feathers. You approached cautiously, basket now half full, smile on your face, pride swelling like your blistered feet. You bent down, extended a hand, and then everything changed. She struck before you even touched the nest. Beak first, straight to the wrist. Then wings wild, flapping chaos, feathers exploding into the air, like a pillow fight in a hurricane. You staggered back. She followed. Fast, screaming. It wasn't a cluck, it was a battle cry. The sound of a creature that had seen things, survived winters, buried enemies. She leapt, actually leapt, onto your chest, claws digging into your tunic like hooks. You flailed, spun. The basket flew from your hands, eggs shattering like your dignity. You tried to shake her loose. She tightened her grip, pecks to the neck, flaps to the face. Somewhere, you think you screamed. You stumbled out of the coop, arms windmilling, hair full of feathers, heart full of fear. The villagers were already watching. Of course they were. One child pointed and shouted, "The chicken's winnin'." Another yelled, "Run, stranger, run." You ran. Across the path. Through the mud. Past the smithy. Past the pigs. Chickens scattered in all directions like you were the harbinger of poultry doom. But she stayed on you, clinging, pecking, screeching her fury into the wind. Finally, in a last desperate act, you spun one final time and flung your arms outward. She released, sailed through the air like a feathery javelin, landed squarely in a barrel of cabbage. Silence. Then laughter. Loud, long, ruthless. The kind of laughter that binds a village together for decades. The kind that echoes through generations. A woman dropped her washing, she was laughing so hard. A man fell off a bench. Children reenacted the scene before you'd even caught your breath. You stood there, shirt torn, face flushed, basket empty. You picked up one of the broken eggs from the mud, stared at it, then stared at the coop. She was back in her corner already, looking smug, victorious. Osric walked over, looked at the remains of the basket, looked at your neck, said only one word, "Marge," then shook his head and walked away. Apparently she has a name. Of course she does. You spent the rest of the day with bits of straw in your hair and dried yolk on your hands. No one let you forget it. A man at the well clucked at you every time you passed. A boy drew a picture in the dirt of a stick figure being pecked by a giant bird. You were legend now. Not heroic, just remembered. That night, you lay on your straw mat, sore and humiliated. The dog snored beside you. You rubbed your wrist, still red from the beak, and, oddly, you smiled. Because somehow, for the first time, the village saw you. Really saw you. Not just the stranger, not just the outsider. You were now the fool who fought a chicken and lost, which meant you were one of them. A little broken, a little bruised, but finally part of the story. The market doesn't announce itself, it just appears. One morning you step outside and the air is thicker, not with fog, but noise. Clanging pots, shouting voices. The occasional shriek that may or may not be from a goat. The village square has transformed. Carts have rolled in from corners you didn't know existed. Tables have been dragged into the mud. Fabric hangs from poles. Baskets overflow with things you don't recognize and aren't sure you should. Osric hands you 3 coins. They're heavy, misshapen. Each one stamped with something vaguely royal and badly worn. He says one word, pie, and sends you off like it's obvious. Like pie is easy. You walk into the mess of humanity slowly, the way someone walks into a dream they know might turn on them. The smells hit you first. Fresh bread and old cheese, boiled onions, warm manure, dried fish. Something sweet, something rotten, something burning. It's a scent collage designed to confuse and conquer. Your stomach turns in slow circles. You pass a woman selling roots from a basket shaped like a skull. She waves a carrot at you, says it cures melancholy. You nod politely. Keep walking. A man calls out, holding what appears to be a dried frog on a string. Wart prevention, he says, like it's common sense. Someone else is trying to sell blessed salt, but it looks suspiciously like regular salt. You find the pie stall by accident. It's not labeled. Just a man with one eyebrow and an apron so stained it looks camouflaged. He's got rows of them, round and golden, stacked like treasure. They smell good. Untrustworthy, but good. You point. He grunts. You hand over all 3 coins. He gives you 1 pie and 1 look, the kind that says good luck, without any kindness behind it. It's warm in your hands, dense. The crust is cracked in places, leaking gravy. You take a bite. At first, it's not bad. Savory, a little chewy, rich, spiced with something that numbs the tongue a bit too quickly. You swallow. It doesn't sit right, but you're hungry. So, you keep going. 3 more bites. The flavor shifts halfway through sweet, then sour, then something metallic. You pause. Look at the filling. It's meat. Definitely meat. But it doesn't look like any meat you've ever trusted. There's a vein running through it, and something that crunches. You swallow the last bite like a dare. It fights back. You walk back through the market slowly, mouth tingling, stomach unsure. A boy offers you a second pie. You shake your head. He winks. That first one's squirrel, he says casually. Then adds, I think. You stop walking. A woman at a nearby stall laughs. Could have been better, she says. Could have been pigeon. She pulls a feather from her teeth and flicks it to the ground. You head toward the well and try to drink away the taste. It doesn't work. The water makes it worse. The grease resurfaces like a ghost. You sit on a barrel and let your stomach make its decisions without you. The sun's too bright, the air too full. The sounds around you blend into a fuzzy blur. Someone tries to sell you a jar of leeches. You shake your head. He shrugs and moves on. Eventually you stand. Walk in the direction of home. Slowly, your limbs feel heavy. The pie has lodged itself somewhere between your regret and your intestines. You pass a pig that looks at you with deep, personal sympathy. At the edge of the square, Osric is waiting. Arms crossed, no expression. Just a raised eyebrow that asks the question. You hand him the empty paper wrap. He smells it, snorts, says nothing. You expect judgment. Instead, he pats your shoulder once, hard, like a priest blessing the damned. Then he walks away. That night, your stomach gurgles like it's debating revolution. You lie awake on your straw mat, shifting every few minutes. The dog sighs beside you. The room creaks. Somewhere, a chicken clucks in its sleep. You think about the pie, the flavor, the gamble, the moment of warmth, followed by slow betrayal. It was food. It was mystery. It was medieval honesty, baked in lard and wrapped in secrets. And now, you understand something. Here, food isn't comfort. It's survival. It's whatever's available. Whatever didn't escape fast enough. Whatever someone was willing to chop, boil, and stuff into pastry. Flavor comes second. Trust isn't part of the recipe. You curl up tighter. Try not to breathe too deeply. Your stomach groans. You whisper a quiet apology to your intestines. And for the first time since arriving, you feel like you've truly eaten like one of them. Consequences, and all. It begins with a sound. Low, distant, and far too serious for the morning you were having. One moment you're crouched by the stream, trying to scrub yesterday's pie regret off your tunic with a mossy rock, and the next clang a deep, thunderous ring splits the air like judgment itself. You freeze. The bell tolls again, then again. You count, but lose track after 6 or 7. It doesn't matter. You look up, and the village has already changed. People stop mid-step. Conversations die mid-sentence. A woman drops a bundle of sticks and makes the sign of the cross before hurrying toward the chapel. Children stop chasing each other and fall into line behind their parents. Even the dog you've been secretly feeding meat scraps to sits and whines at the sky like he knows something's coming. Osric doesn't look at you. He just nods in the direction of the chapel like a man resigned to fate. You follow, unsure of the rules, but sure that not following them will be worse. The chapel isn't large. More like a stone box with a wooden door and a single stained glass window that's more brown than colored. It smells like old paper and older air. Inside, it's dim, cold. You can see your breath. The villagers file in without a word, like they're all part of the same quiet machinery. You try to copy them. Step where they step. Sit where they sit. Kneel where they kneel. You don't know the prayers, not the words, not the rhythm, but they do. Every voice, low and steady, weaving into one hum that sounds ancient. You mouth along, moving your lips in time, hoping no one notices that your chant is a lie. Then everyone stands. So you do. Then kneels. So you kneel. But your timing is off. Always off. You rise half a second too late. Drop your knees too early. Someone beside you winces when your wooden shoes scrape against the stone floor like a scream. The priest begins to speak. You understand every fourth word. Something about fire and sin and sheep. A lot about sheep. He gestures with his hands in a way that feels vaguely threatening. At one point, he holds up something small and gold. Everyone bows their heads. You follow. Your back starts to ache. Your stomach growls. You pretend it didn't. Then comes the incense. A boy walks down the aisle with a swinging censer. Smoke pours from it like the building itself is sighing. It smells like a pine tree fell in love with a campfire. You breathe it in and nearly cough, but swallow it. Everyone else seems unfazed, eyes half closed like they've been here 1,000 times. Maybe they have. You're not sure how long the service lasts. Time behaves differently here, like the church itself is holding the clock hostage. Minutes stretch, thoughts wander, your legs go numb. Your feet cramp inside the wooden shoes. You try shifting your weight and bump into a woman beside you. She glares. You mouth sorry and immediately realize she has no idea what that means. The priest lifts his arms again. Everyone murmurs something. You copy the sounds phonetically. Something about mercy,